Good afternoon. Today is Sunday, July 15th, 2007. This is the beginning of an interview with Herb Dvoor. We are here at the building where Herb resides on the Minebrook Farm in Flemington, New Jersey. My name is Maggie Metz and I have the honor of interviewing Herb today. So Herb, thank you very much. This is just a great opportunity for some public learning. We're very interested in your stories and your memories and anything that you'd like to share with us. As we move forward with the new community participation on the farm, we feel it's very important to capture your memories of living on the farm throughout your life. It is important to us to provide future visitors to the farm with a vision and understanding of what the farm was like when you lived here. So we'd like to start out by asking you a few questions about your memories and life on the farm. So, your childhood memories, did you want to start out by telling us how the farm came into your family?
Well, my name is Herb Dvoor. It's a son of Jacob Dvoor, who originally bought the farm in 1919. And he came in this country in 1910 at 15 years of age and settled in Three Bridges working on a dairy farm. And they wanted to buy his own farm, but they had no money, but spent a couple of years when in 1919 he kept going to the bank. In 1919 the bank approved the loan and he purchased the farm. And been here ever since, passed away. And they brought in his two brothers in the late 20s. And then his father and mother, and bought them a farm next door. And he had two sisters he brought in. And he was a sole owner of this, but the three brothers started the Dvoor brothers business of buying and selling dairy cows. I was born in 1924 and lived here all my life. My mother came from the old country, but her folks lived on a farm in Connecticut. And she was there visiting, so I happened to be born in Danbury, Connecticut, but living here in Flemington at the time. And from then on, built up the business, and that's about it.
Okay. What are some of your earliest memories here on the farm?
Sorry.
Well, working hard. Working hard, and we built up a business. My dad started doing pretty good. The first 10 years were rough without any money. He used to take notes from farmers, sell them dairy cows. And Mr. Stem at the Milford Bank, he would accept the notes, and the farmers would come here and pay a little bit each month. And the Hunterdon County Bank accepted it and grew, and in time bought more farms until it prospered pretty good. And on this farm here, we just bought and sold dairy cows. Then we had 5 dairy farms that we milk cows on.
What did your parents tell you about their lives in Latvia?
Well, that they didn't know. I didn't know too much, really. They were glad to get here, and as my dad made a few dollars, he sent for each brother. And the first brother he sent for was, when he bought this farm, was in 1919. And that brother was 19 years old when he arrived here, but there was an epidemic on the boat arriving, and he passed away. And he was buried in Somerville at a Jewish cemetery there. And here about 5 years ago, they were fixing the library, and Mr. Stodoff came in and says there's some retaining wall with your cemetery stones there. It was my grandfather, my grandmother, and this one here. I said, how is that possible? And I went to Somerville, and it seems when my grandfather passed away, my dad bought one big stone, and the local stone place here in Court Street took the old ones. And this hard case where the library is now, used them when they were building Route 12 to make a retaining wall. And about a month later, the county brings me the stones here, which are right here on the lawn now. They're there, and they're all three big gravestones. I was thinking maybe use them one, but I don't think I could. But that's the story. Then he brought, as he made some money, he brought each brother and his two sisters. And he took them in as partners, not in this here farm. My dad owned this here completely by himself, but the other farms were in partnership with the three brothers. And it prospered. There was a lot of dairy farms here. We would ship cows. One brother stayed, one of my uncles, that would be one of my dad's brothers, stayed in Wisconsin, just purchased dairy cows and shipped them here to be sold. And the other brother took care of all the farming and the dairy, and my dad, he done all the buying and selling. And then when I got out of high school, I became a partner, worked my way in, and I went to Canada and bought registered animals. And we used to buy a farm. We had at the Hunters Crossing on 202, we bought the farm, the stock, and machinery. And we had a public auction on the day the Second World War ended. And they announced it during the sale that the war had ended. And the sale was half done. And my golly, everybody got a little feeling pretty good. And the stuff brought a little more money after that. They were, and that was the day the war. That was 100 crossing now. It is, you know, that they're.
How long was that an auction?
When did the war end?
1944?
Yeah, 44.
1944.
Oh,
That's where all those condos are, you know,
Yeah.
on 202 by Daniels.
and that
We
was
bought that and we sold that farm that same day. We sold that farm to a fella who kept mare horses. They used the urine for medications. There were several horse farms. And we sold him 35 horses. He had his own horse farm. And yeah, but then they done away with it. They made medicine out of the horse urine. And we didn't own that farm too long, but that was at the time. And then I went to school. First 2 years of school, I went to the Valley School on 523. And we had a few ponies all the time. Of course, I had a little cart. I used to go down there. I went to school with the pony. It was a one-room school. I went 2 years there. Then I got transferred. My dad had to pay tuition, though, to go here to the local school a little closer. So in my third grade, I went to the school here on Bunnell Street, and I graduated in 42 from that school. And we had horses. We worked with horses. The tractor put us out of business in 1942. All farmers had draft horses, work horses. In 1942, the tractor came in. That was the end of the horse business. We used to sell to the prison farms and the milk companies who delivered milk in the city with horses. And Freihoffer's Bakery, I remember they used to buy horses from us. And they kept on going. Today it's a lost art. That's about it.
How did your mom and dad meet?
I don't know, through relatives. My mother was from Russia, but her folks also were, but they had a little dairy farm in Danbury, Connecticut. And she was out there visiting, and I happened to be born in Danbury, Connecticut, but was living here at the time.
How many siblings did you have?
I got one brother.
Okay. Melvin?
Yeah.
Okay. What
And
are-
he was born here.
Okay. Is he older or
No, he's younger.
Okay.
And he worked on the farm for a good many years. And he graduated at Doylestown Agriculture School.
Okay. Doylestown, okay.
That's where my husband lived.
Oh, yeah?
Delaware Valley College of Science
Yeah,
and
right,
Agriculture.
we
it's
went
now
there,
called.
yeah.
So what were some family traditions that you can recall here?
Well, we're strictly Hebrew, Jewish, and my dad started the Flemington Jewish Community Center when my grandfather came. They didn't have a synagogue, and they had it in his house, which was down the street. We had a dairy farm right down the street across from the Catholic Church. There's a picture of it in there, you can see it. And from then they started a synagogue, but he started it. When he brought he was on the Orthodox side.
So it was Orthodox?
Orthodox Jewish,
Okay.
then they came reform, more or less conservative.
Yeah. So religious observances around here, you had a
Yeah,
community?
my mother kept strictly kosher home here.
Okay. What were typical days like here on the farm for you as a kid?
Well, it was strictly working. We did a lot of farming and so forth and so on. And we had the 5 dairies going where we milked cows. We had one over near Clinton in Annandale, registered Brown Swiss. And the farm down here had registered Ayrshires. And the other 3 farms were all Holsteins.
So you would go to school, would you work on the farm before school or just
Yeah,
after
no,
school?
mostly after school. And then when I got out of high school, it was full time. We always had a bookkeeper in the office. I took over that job, and then I started buying and selling after I got out of high school.
Okay. Did you enjoy school?
Yeah, it was all right, but I didn't go no further, just high school.
Did you want to do anything else, or were you expected
No,
to get into
I liked the farming and dealing with cattle and buying and selling. That was the main business, buying and selling. But it's got to be a suburban area now, and the farms were all sold off. It's not too many dairies left.
What do you remember about the Great Depression here?
Not too much. I was kind of young then. I remember the Lindbergh trial. That was during it. Route 12 was built in the early 30s, right after the Lindbergh trial. I can remember they got a permit to land the airplanes. We had that field where the Paradise Golf is now, and Route 12 wasn't there. And there was one big field right up to Mine Street. And the reporters would come in with the airplanes. And there was 4 different airplanes landing there. It was a big time then. They used to get out. And I remember my grandmother and grandfather would give them coffee there as they get out of the airplanes, and they would walk to the courthouse from here. And there was a lot of big times then. Then Route 12 come and they took all this property from us here. Circle. In the municipal building, which was lately.
Was the family business affected much by the Great Depression, or?
Well, everybody was affected, yeah. But the farmers then, everything was done. You sold a cow, you would get a promissory note from the farmer, which I have a copy, and the farmer would come here, renew it, pay $10 on it. It was mostly all honest, but they didn't have too much. But we were hard up for money. As soon as we got a note, we had to run to the bank and take it, get the cash. But we were responsible not to endorse it. And they kept on going that way. And that's what it was. My dad worked on the farm in 3 Bridges. The first cow he bought, he sold to a farmer who passed away several years ago at 100 years of age by the name of Lou Sutphin on Cools Road. And he made a couple dollars with that cow. That's when he decided he wanted to buy this farm. And he spent about 1.5 years going to the bank every month trying to get the money to finally got it. That's it. and then on. And he helped a lot of farmers, and it was in the 60s and 65 when a lot of Hollanders came out here. And we helped them buy farms, and we gave them a lot of cattle. They were good dairymen. And things got too high here, so most of them went up to Vermont and settled. That's the story on that.
You mentioned your grandparents came out. Did your father bring your grandparents?
My father brought them all.
Mm-hmm.
My dad came out first, he was 15 years of age. And he would send for his brothers, then he sent for his 2 sisters. And as he again made a little money, then he sent for his mother and father, and he bought them the farm right next door here, where the houses are, right across from the church. And he helped to buy that farm. And he was real orthodox, my grandparents. And they milked cows, and after a while they turned the farm over to my dad.
I wanted to ask a couple of questions about your mom and just how she kept the house.
Well, she was a homemaker. She didn't do any farm work. And the sister-in-law, the brother-in-law of my dad, he worked for my dad, and they lived here for a little while. And then the hired help, we had a lot of hired help at this time, go to take care of the dairy. And a lot of them, we supplied them a house. Some of them didn't have a house. They came here. She would feed them, and she'd do all the cooking.
So mostly she cooked everything was kosher here in the house?
She kept a kosher house in there, yeah.
What types of food did she prepare?
Well, that time we used to get the chickens. We had to go to Trenton and get in the kosher meat in Trenton. Then we used to kill an odd one, use the 4 quarters. We had freezers. That was about it.
Did she?
But then after, they got conservative. My mother didn't, but my dad, he would eat anything. He was conservative.
Did she can or cure foods?
Oh yeah, he would can. Down in the basement here, there's the big canning thing, the cellar there. It was a different ball game that time.
Did she pass down any recipes to you guys?
Well, I think my ex-wife took them when she did that, so, yeah, but I'm friendly with my second one. No, they got along good. And I get along good with my second one too. I mean, we're friendly and everything, but I was married twice. First one is 30 years, ran off. Well, it's a long story, but don't forget that. And that's about it. There used to be years ago, a cow, we'd get strange cows, they would get out of the fence and they'd go into the neighbor's farm. There was a couple of dairies on Dayton Road. There was one dairy farmer on Dayton Road, before the swimming pool on Dayton Road there. There was a farmer there, we sold him a herd of dairy cows and helped him buy the farm. And we took a mortgage on the farm and on the dairy cows. And he had a fire. All the cows burnt, and the buildings burnt, and the insurance was supposed to be payable to my dad, And he was paying the premium, the farmer. And it just so happened the insurance company says it wasn't worth that. They refused to pay. We had a hell of a time. Went to court. And after that, we wouldn't insure nothing unless the insurance company would say that they'd be responsible for that. We lost quite a bit of money with that one. That's the way it was. But the cows used to get out and go on farms. Today, Raritan Township has an ordinance. If a cow gets out, you're fined. Or a horse gets out. And the neighbor is suing you. That's why I don't have no cows here. I have some bought in the country. And the farmer keeps it till I sell them, not too many. But today, I'd like to keep them here. They let me use them at it. But hell, one gets out, I get fined. And they go on somebody's lawn, everybody's suing everybody. So I refuse to do it.
So what was the political climate here when you were growing up?
Well, they used to vote here at the office.
That's what I read.
We
that
had,
you had a polling.
The Raritan Township, this district voted here, and all the politics would come. Made it, they used my mother's daughter bathroom here. But originally, when we bought it, there was the outhouses here. We had a 3-seater out there, a big fancy one. It was a 3-seater, yeah. And anyway, when they started here, we had bathrooms finally, and they'd bring the booths here and set them up. And the politicians would come around with kibbutz. It was mostly Democrats at that time, but that's a Republican area. And a few of the farmers that we did business, they were strong Democrats, and they would come here. But everybody was friendly, even the Republicans, the Democrats. But they voted here for about 10 years.
How did that come about, that the
Well,
polling
they were
office
looking
was
for
here?
a place to put the polls. There wasn't that many people around here. This place has grown the past 27 years. So the newcomers, everybody wants to be the last one in the neighborhood.
So what can you tell me about the farmhands that were here?
Well, some of them would stay on. I had, one of them rents my house down here. He was with me 60 years. Another one I just put in a nursing home. He was a kid here. He was here 65 years. And some of them, but there was no problem. They'd come, if they leave, the next day you got 5 of them wanting the job. There was no problem to get help with them days. Today you can never do it.
Did you house any of them here? Or?
No, not too much here. We had houses, the tenant houses. Each farm had a house. We made a couple family houses out of them.
And yours was right down the street?
There was 2 of them there, and there's one where my daughter lives. It's there. And every farm, 100 Trade Center, we had 2 houses on that big barn. Every farm had a house or 2 on it, and the health. That was part of their wages. Giving them a house.
And your mother cooked for them too?
No,
sometimes?
they did their own cooking, thank God, no. But sometimes for here, day help or something. She would. And years ago, you used to have these hobos go around, up the railroad, they would stop it. She would always feed them. There would always hobos come in, ask them for something to eat. But everybody seems to be honest. But here we sold draft horses, and farmers used to come. We used to test them. We had wagons and pull wagons. And at the Flemington Fair, we entered them in pulling contests. It's a different life.
What were some hard times here that you can remember on the farm?
It was
Hard times here.
well, work. A lot of hard work. But it was good, clean, honest work. But today, it's a lot easier, with the new equipment and milking machines. We used to get cows in from Wisconsin and Canada. They had to be milked by hand. We didn't use machines on them. And when my dad first went to Wisconsin to ship cattle here, he didn't have too much money, and he rode in the boxcar with the cows, right in the boxcar. It took 3 days. You had to unload them. The law said I think it was 20 hours they had to be unloaded. And he would unload them in Chicago. And you talk about the Depression. And he would have, some of the cows were milking, some were dry. And he slept in the boxcar, right with the cows, and he would milk them. And the people would be lined up, and he would give them the milk. They would have jars in it. He filled it up with the jars. well, unloading the cattle and milking them. I remember that. That was during the Depression. And that was in Chicago. They had to be unloaded. They were coming from Marshville, Wisconsin, and they had to be unloaded twice. But for about 4 years, he rode the boxcars with the cows. Because, you know, if you lose a cow, it meant the whole profit on everything. He borrowed all the money to get a load of cows. And he went out there with the train. Then later on, they come by a semi-trailer. After when things got modern. But for about 4 years, he rode the boxcar right with the cows. Milk them, fed them.
Did you ever go with him on one of those trips?
Pardon?
Did you ever accompany him?
I went to Wisconsin, but no, I didn't go on that there. I was still in my short pants yet. Going to school. Going to school.
Okay.
No, I didn't go. But I did go to Wisconsin, you know, after. Then he sent his brother, my uncle, who was a bachelor, he stayed in Wisconsin when the business built up, and that's all he did. Then the trains were faster, and then it became semi-trucks. He went in these double-decker trucks.
What are some of your favorite memories of being on the farm?
Well, I'm still on the farm, you know. I didn't have enough sense to leave. I'm still here, and I enjoy it, but it isn't like it was, you know. I'm not doing no farm chores or nothing. But it was a good life, yes. Healthy life. It's something different every day. The farmers would come here. We had a lot of farmers. They would come every day, shoot the bull on rainy days. Our office was packed with farmers. And they would come in, they would buy a cow. It was always trade. They would get rid of one cow. We would take them, then we would take them to the stockyards in Jersey City. Like the used cars, take them in trade. And that's the way it worked. It eventually built up a trade. But the first several years were hard, you know, when he first bought the farm and brought his folks over and his brothers and sisters. Had to bring them over one at a time. He didn't have enough money to bring them all in one shot. But everything turned out pretty good.
What were the crafts and trades here?
We have to sync the audio once more.
Okay. What were some of the crafts and trades here on the farm? I read about blacksmithing, tool
Oh yeah,
making.
when we had a load of horses we used to get the draft horses from Iowa. Every February, my dad and his brother would go to Iowa, and they would buy draft horses, that's work horses. And when they brought them here, we had to have a blacksmith to shoe them, and that's what we did.
Was there a blacksmith that lived
Yeah,
here?
there was a couple here, Sam Hall, right here in Flemington, on the back street across from the post office. He had a blacksmith shop. Then there was one in Oldwick we used. There were several, quite a few blacksmiths.
Any tanning and trapping going on?
Well, we sold harness also. In them days, when a farmer or anybody would buy a team of horses, they needed a new harness. That building right in back of the garage here was the harness shop. And a good team of horses at that time in the 40s, a good team, harness went for around $300 a set, and a team of horses were around $500 to $1,000 at that time, which was a lot of money, you know. I'm talking good horses. Then you would take in the trade horses. Then towards the end, the trade horses became what they call killer horses. They made meat out of it, you know. And during the war, there was a lot of horse meat is clean. And they had slaughterhouse. It was legal. In France, it's a delicacy, horse meat. And they had it here in the States too. In Norristown, Pennsylvania, we used to get rid of our cull horses that were no good. A lot of them went for the more they weighed, the more you got, more meat was on them.
Did they do the tanning here on the premises, or did
No.
they just sell the harnesses from?
We sold the harness. We bought it from a company.
Gotcha. Okay. What was the breed of horses that were the draft?
Belgian, Suffolks, they were the breeds.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah,
Strong
huge
horses.
We used to unload them at the railroad station and bring them down through Main Street, 6 abreast, 2 of them, one on each side leading.
Mm. So the railroad was how you mostly had transportation?
The box cars,
Uh-huh.
yeah, those cattle cars. But the refugees in Europe went to the slaughterhouse. They put them in cattle cars.
Same thing.
Same thing. The Holocaust. It was the same thing. That's the kind of cars they rode in.
So actually, my next question was I wanted to ask you what wartime was like here in Flemington during the Second World War.
Well, that time, you know, the farmers had a little more privileges. They got permits to get gas, you know, and buy an automobile if they needed, or you, like, we were never short of gasoline to operate the farm. You had to have a permit. It was rationed. But farmers, legitimate farmers got it. But it was scarce.
What were any other impacts of the war on the farm that you remember?
Not really. It's the same as everything else, really. They were trying to produce more food. You know, things got a little more efficient. Didn't do too much wasting. You couldn't get the machinery wasn't produced too much. You had to make do with what you had. Keep fixing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've read that it was after World War II that the draft horse business ended.
It kind of ended. The
And
tractor took over.
Okay, so what was it? Something economical on this particular farm, or that it was a technological
No, it
advance
was all
that
over.
the tractor
The
came?
farmers, all the farmers, even we used to deal horses. We even got rid of horses and went into tractors. Everybody, it was more efficient with tractors than it was with a team of horses to go out and work all day. But in Lancaster, they still use the horses. They don't use tractors. The Amish.
That had to be a big transition for you, I would think,
Yeah, it was.
having horses around
Yeah.
all the time.
But I know when I went to school, I took the courses, agriculture course, and then we debate. We'd have debates, the ones that were for tractors and the ones that were for horses. I was on the team with horses, you know, but the tractors won.
What were some of other notable technological changes that you experienced here on the farm?
Well, everything got more technical, you know. As of recently, when we were still in the cow business, DEP wouldn't let the cows drink out of the brook. They couldn't step in the brook, and we had the pasture. They used to go under the bridge, over across the road, and then where Route 12 is now, they went under that bridge, and where the houses are now, they pastured there. We had 100 head running around here, and they go. As a kid, we went swimming. The cows would be standing in the puddle of water here. We'd be swimming here. Now they don't allow the cow to even go in the water. What? That's it. That's the way it is. That's the way the DEP. I can't turn the cow out to drink out of the brook anymore. That's why I have a tank out here. I used to have it, but they would get out of the fence, and I'd get fined, so it stopped. But the cows just stand in the water. They used to go in. Nobody died. Like I said, we went swimming with the cows standing in the water.
What was it like to take over this farm with your brother Melvin?
Well, that's what it been pretty rough, you know. Everybody had a job. My dad was buying and selling. I was buying and selling. And there's my uncle. He was taking care of all the dairies, and the other one was shipping the cows. When they passed away, and my dad passed away, it left me to do, and I was doing the bookkeeping on top of it. I couldn't. It's pretty hard to handle, and I got rid of some just to pay in inheritance tax and so forth. It killed you. And I got rid of most of the land, but couldn't handle it. And then things got pretty rough. It was hard to get help. Nobody wanted to work on the farm, get up 4 o'clock in the morning to milk cows. That's what it was. And they didn't have no pensions, you know, farm workers didn't have pensions. But New Jersey, this area is pretty well off finished for dairy farms. Right now, we would have 100 head running around here. Going into the brook.